Ghana has a combination of on-site and centralized plants that treat liquid waste, with some adding value to it. These systems come in various forms and capacities and are installed at varying costs. Construction of these systems is typically done by trained or partially skilled artisans. Are these facilities enough? Are they working as they should? What valuable products could we possibly have from liquid waste? Should we be concerned about possible pollution from some of these facilities? We will seek solutions from the practitioners who actually install these facilities when we return from the break. Welcome back to Trash Talk. Today, we have a full house of practitioners who install what we call toilet facilities, toilet systems. Today, we want to romanticize the names that we are going to talk about. We've agreed already that we'll call it brown gold.
Brown gold?
Yes, we can also call it human excreta.
Human excreta works.
Yes, what name will you call it?
Shit.
All right. So we are talking about that. But I'm going to introduce my panelists today. I'll start off with Joshua Bright. And Joshua is CEO of Green Tech Biogas Engineering Systems, also a member of the Biogas Association of Ghana. And then we have Engineer Selassie Kuwornu, who is a consultant. And then we have with us Mr. Frank Ekwam of Biofilcom Limited. And welcome in the studio, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you
very much.
I'm going to ask everybody to give me a preferred name for the human excreta discussion we are going to have today. What name do you prefer to call it?
Faecal matter.
Fecal matter. What are you going to call it?
Brown gold.
Brown gold. And you will call it?
Shit.
Well, I think all of them do apply. And perhaps later I'm going to ask you to tell me why you are calling them those names. We'll start off with Joshua Bright. Could you please introduce yourself and the organization you represent?
My name is Joshua Bright. I'm Amenorfe. I am the Executive Secretary to the Biogas Association of Ghana. I also own a company that designs and constructs biogas plants and sewage treatment plants called Green Tech Biogas Engineering Services. I'm also a consultant to the EPA in training, and also a consultant to the GIZ in training as well.
So essentially, the biogas engineering, the Green Tech Biogas Engineering Systems, what do you do?
Also, we design plants for institutions. It could be like hospitals, hotels, schools, agro-processing industries, and even homes. So we design and then we construct. We also do research in that area and do training.
I'll move on to Frank. Frank, could you tell us a little bit about Biofilcom Limited?
What we basically do is we visit people's house and then design a biofilm toilet for them where you need not to dislodge ever at all.
What is biofilm? Okay, I'll get back to the biofilm toilet system. You need to explain to us what it means and then what it would also mean for those homes that already have existing systems.
What?
Yes. We will come to the main consultant, Selassie, Engineer Selassie. Tell us a bit about what you do.
So essentially, I consult and I also design and install for water and wastewater treatment systems. So a bit of my consulting practice is in water and sanitation and hygiene. And then I also do design and service delivery for water and wastewater systems for industry and commercial.
Okay. The little research that I've conducted tells me that all human excreta are not the same. Am I right? Will the research be right? Let's even look at Ghana. Tell us a little bit about brown gold, human excreta, toilet.
Yes.
What is it? Why should we be discussing it around the table today? I'll start off with Selassie.
Well, I think one of the reasons why we should discuss it is that no one wants it in their space, right? So it's important to understand what it is, what you're dealing with, and the best way to manage it in your space, if you find it in your space. And if you don't want it in your space, how do you go about it? That's the importance of this discussion, right? To answer your question on the variations in brown gold in different areas, I think it shouldn't be surprising because humans as we are, we come from different backgrounds, different cultures. We have different diets. Our bathroom habits are different. And all these things play a role in what we produce, the output. Right? The environment we grew up in determines our output. It's the same thing for human excreta. So the food you eat, the water you drink, I mean, you'd be surprised to know that there are some communities where they eat very spicy food, some have a lot of salt. I mean, all these things affect a certain part of the characteristics of fecal sludge. Yes.
And so, by extension, if we're to try to use the fecal matter for anything in terms of the recycling space, it may require different efforts.
Yes. So typically, the first step in designing or coming up with a strategy for treatment is characterizing the fecal sludge.
Oh, I'll come to that. Characterization of fecal matter. That's interesting. I mean, Biofilcom, what's the technology about?
So it's designed in such a way that it works on the principle of what happens in the forest environment.
Okay, now tell us what happens in the forest environment.
Leaves, trees, twigs keep falling. And then within a matter of time, they get out of the floor. It's get decomposed by macro and microorganisms, other bacteria that break it down. So you go there and you see like humor, which is good, and then the cycle continue, tree then take it up, and then it gives. So that's the principle we mimic inside a digester. So that when you flush your system.
What is a digester?
On
this program, we are all learning. This is a specialized area, fecal matter, human excreta specialization. We are all learning. I'm not an expert, and my viewers want to know.
Well.
So what is a digester?
So the digester is a small box that we have designed, basically 6 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet of size. And then it's been designed to position close to your building. So when you flush, after you've eased yourself, deposit the brown gold in there, you flush it, and there's a rapid separation that happens at the digester. So the solid stays in the digester, and the water goes out of it.
We will come to you, and for you to tell us what's the water that is separated from the fecal matter, what is used for. Now, I would want you, Joshua Bright, to tell us what the dominant types of on-site sanitation systems are in Ghana.
Well, so basically, I know we have the anaerobic treatment systems. I know we have the advanced ones, like the ones that Zoom Lion constructs. And I have also heard about the biofill. I have had issues with the biofill, anyway. And it's good that we have our big man here and the engineers here, and we'll discuss. And I'll also let them know the challenges I have with it, and probably tell them how they can resolve it.
All right.
So these are the systems I know we have currently.
Okay. Which ones are the most popular?
Popularity, then it comes to the biofill.
Okay.
But then, we've had biogas technology in the system for long.
About how long?
Since the 90s, even earlier than 90s. But the drawback has been the cost of constructing the biogas technology. Now, that technology works on, it's a system, it's a whole system. It works on anaerobic treatment, and anaerobic digestion is the process of decomposing organic material in the absence of oxygen.
Okay.
So that's the basic definition I'll give. And then...
Will it be with the aid of a catalyst?
With or without.
Okay.
So you can decide to add a catalyst, produced one, or even locally, one you can resource locally.
Okay.
So when you have I said it was a system. So when you move, you have the primary treatment unit, which will purely use anaerobic digestion. And then you have a secondary treatment unit, which will use a combination. What the biofuel people do is operating under aerobic digestion. So aerobic is in the presence of oxygen.
Okay, in the presence of oxygen.
Decomposing in the presence of oxygen. So in the secondary unit, you have a combination of the anaerobic and aerobic.
Okay.
And then you have the third unit, which we usually call a tertiary, that operates fully under aerobic condition, but slightly different from what Biofil is doing.
Okay.
Yes.
I would want to find out what the challenges of the Biofil.
But if I may.
Yes, please, go ahead.
So basically, you're asking about the different types of.
Yes, the
so
different
just to break it
systems.
down a little bit, he
Yes.
mentioned broadly anaerobic and aerobic.
Yeah.
But on the ground, anaerobic. Typically, a septic tank is
Septic tank.
is an anaerobic system.
Okay.
Right. There are other things like anaerobic baffled reactors and the like. And then there's a biofill. And then these days, I also try to introduce sequential batch reactors.
What is that? All
Yes,
these.
it's an aerobic system
Okay.
because now this is the thing. One thing you should bear in mind is that before you even install or go in for a system, what's the end point? What do you want to do with the system? Do you just want to treat it to get rid of it? Are you interested in treating to reuse? Do you want to reuse just the water, or you want to reuse the water and the sludge?
The sludge, yeah.
Right. So all these things go into determining what type of system you want. So
When we say,
typically,
I want you to
Yeah.
explain it a little. When we say sludge, do we mean when fecal matter has been extracted? Maybe the solid part has been extracted from the very liquid? What
Okay.
is sludge?
so sludge is basically a combination of active bacteria, dead bacteria, and then inert material.
You are still speaking
Yes, so-
in the sky. We want you to tell us the simple. So we have feces here.
Yes.
Okay.
So
And the feces happens to be a combination of some solid and liquid.
Liquid.
so
Now,
altogether,
start from there.
we'll call it fecal sludge.
Fecal sludge.
Right.
Okay.
Altogether. Fecal sludge, and typically fecal sludge is what is produced in these containment systems. So in your septic
Your septic
tanks,
tank.
biogas digesters, biofuel digesters, all those things are fecal sludge. But when it goes into a sewer line, we don't call it fecal sludge,
Okay.
right? So that's
The sewer
sewage.
line is what?
The pipe
The pipe.
that conveys it, that you have in Tema and some parts of Accra.
Okay.
That's a sewer line.
Yeah.
So when the human excreta goes in there, then it's sewage because
Then
the
becomes sewage.
yes, the characteristics are different.
Okay. Gentlemen, you all agree, right?
So I agree with him
Okay.
perfectly.
Right.
Okay.
So that's essentially. So fecal sludge is what you typically find in your on-site systems, KVIPs, septic tanks, biogas digesters, biofuel, and all that. That's typically your fecal sludge.
Wow. Let me go to no, I would want to go to Frank.
Okay.
Now, Frank, tell us a typical KVIP. Okay. KVIP is public. Obviously, we have the different characteristics of fecal matter
Yes.
operating in the same space. Now, what would Biofil actually do to work on that kind of system
With a KVIP.
with a KVIP?
So what I think we've worked on a couple of that, retrofitting it to biodigester. So what's happened is we demolish the base and then we install in our biodigester, our filters in there, whereby it is no more a KVIP where it has to harden inside. But now it goes in, we introduce a microorganism that will break it down inside the biodigester. So after retrofitting, and we have converted from KVIP to a biofuel digester. Then when it breaks down, when the slurry or water that comes out of it, a drain field is designed or a soak pit that allow it to drain, permeate into the soil.
So is it the case that you have, say, some liquid like this that you sort of introduce into the KVIP?
Okay, so with the biofuel
Yeah,
toilet system,
yes.
we introduce microorganism. I mean,
Okay.
we use vermicomposting using earthworms and then
Earthworms.
other humus to aid in the breaking down. Earthworm does marvelous work when it comes to breaking down.
Where do you get the earthworms from?
So we've started a process of rearing some, and then we
You
grow
rear
them.
earthworms?
Yes, we grow earthworms.
Just so you use them
For our work.
for part of your work. Wow. Joshua Bright. Yes, we want to understand how, I've used the KVIP situation. He's used the biofuel to explain how they will transform the content of a KVIP system. into something usable. Ideally, what would Green Tech Biogas Engineering System recommend?
Before I respond to that,
Yes.
I would like to add to what my colleague was saying about the sludge.
Yes.
So when you mix the fecal matter with water, my other colleague was calling slurry. You can call it slurry, feedstock, whichever name. Now, when it goes to the digester, we have layers. On top of it, you have the swimming layer, and then in the middle, you have more liquid, and the what settle at the bottom is what we are calling the sludge. It's more solid than the liquid.
So we have
about 3 layers.
About 3 layers. The
swimming
first layer
layer,
being the very light liquid.
lighter ones.
And then you have the mix.
Yes.
That's more liquid with some fecal matter.
Still
and
in
then
there.
the ones
Then
that have settled.
Yes, that's what we call the sludge. It's more solid. All right, so back to your question. Yes, so we will, once it's a KVIP, I mean, and then the content is already fecal. So we will have to, if it's KVIP, then I'm assuming that they've not done any proper design. Then we have to design a system for it. And then we have to evacuate or find a way of transporting that feces that are collected in it into the digester. In the digester, we have microorganisms because it has to be anaerobic. Okay. Microorganisms that you can easily get from cow dung.
From cow dung?
Yes.
Now we have the earthworms, we have the cow dung.
Yes, so easily get it from the cow dung. Okay. You introduce that bacteria into it. Now they work under anaerobic conditions and they're able to break it down. And then you pass it through series of treatments. You heard him mentioning anaerobic buffer reactor. Mm-hmm. That's what we usually use as the secondary treatment unit. And then we have a filter bed, which we can either plant crops on it so that you do the further treatment. So that's what we do. And you just have to make sure that your final effluent meets the standard of discharge standard of EPA before you can discharge.
What is it that the EPA will ideally be looking for?
Yes, they'll be looking at your total coliforms.
Okay, wait.
Your nutrient content.
Wait. So EPA comes in and says, we are here to assess the quality of the fecal matter that you have in your facility, or that is moving out of your, either system. A home or moving out of your system into the public space.
Exactly, yes.
Yes, and so what are they looking? They come to take samples of the fecal matter?
So you yourself, either the client or usually the designer, you have to test your effluent. So what comes out from the system is what we call the effluent, in case you would like to ask that.
Yes.
So after it has gone through my system, that effluent that is coming out must meet that standard. Now you realize that EPA will be concerned about the total coliform content, the pH, those things. But your host community, the people around you, will be concerned about the smell.
Exactly. I was
so
about
they
to go
are
there.
talking about, if it doesn't smell, they don't really care about what is coming out.
Yes.
But the moment it begins to smell, that's where the people around you complain.
Worried, yeah.
But EPA goes beyond the smell. So
in all these your processes described here, what can be done to let the systems not have any smell? We know that human excreta obviously comes with smell. What is it? I know the earthworms now, I know the cow dung, and what is it that can be done to sort of not for communities not to have any smell? I think yes.
Okay. So what we do basically before we have our clients will come and do what we call site visit. So
on site visit?
Yes, to do a site visit to ascertain what is on ground. So in that site visit, we ask a few questions, like how many people are going to use it, where are we going to locate it, and all those that we advise. So in that, then we tell, okay, this system we are designing for this number of people. This has to be used. And then we'll ask you to use it, we'll seed it, and then we'll provide ventilations for it. So that, and when it is being used within the purifier that we have given you, you need not to have odor because the digester is work in such a way that it breaks down with carbon and nitrogen, so that it gets broken down aerobically, so that you don't have odors coming out.
I mean, still in the education space, the smell of human excreta, what is it?
No, so the smell, basically, if you burp, right?
Yes. There's
Or-
that
yes,
odor. Yes.
There's already that odor. I mean, any system, any treatment system is basically mimicking what's in your stomach. So
Yeah. Okay.
the breakdown, the microorganisms are living organisms, right? They breathe in, breathe out. So they are respiring. So the gases you smell are basically a byproduct of that breakdown process, right? So controlling the odor is basically going through different stages to either absorb or limit or change the operation. So, for instance, from Joshua's process, they start with anaerobic digestion, which would typically produce methane and carbon dioxide, and sulfide. Those are very odorous gases,
Yeah.
right? But when it's designed well and contained, they can extract it and reuse for other things. In the second step, right, you still have some odorous gases in there. That's where he mentioned they introduce the aerobic process, because in the aerobic process, you are introducing oxygen to more or less, so you are changing the type of microorganisms, one, that is present, and also the way they behave. And you're also trying to break down, let me use the word breakdown, the methane and the sulfide gases. You are trying to transform them into other less odorous gases. So essentially, keeping the system aerobic is one of the simplest ways to fend off odor from these systems.
It's getting exciting today. I mean, we set out to romanticize human excreta, and I think so far we are doing a good job in the studio. We'll be right back after the break to continue the discussions. Today we are talking about human excreta. Some have called it brown gold. Others have used other names for it. But it's the treatment of it in our society, in our communities, in homes, industrial areas. It's been very educative today. And before we went on the break, we were talking about the smell and what can be done to contain the smell of human excreta. And so I think we'll go to Joshua Bright for him to share his thoughts.
So as Selassie was explaining, the easiest way to remove smell from organic matter is decomposing it anaerobically. Because it's basically hydrogen sulfide and ammonia.
Could you
That's
break
the
the
smell.
language down for my audience?
Yes, so hydrogen sulfide is like when you eat egg. He used an example.
Yes,
so
the
when
wrapping.
you eat egg, and you pass out,
Yes.
the smell that comes. So it's like a rotten egg. It's a gas that smells like a rotten egg.
Okay.
Now, it is when you pass out the feces, it is in the dissolved state in the fecal matter.
Okay.
Okay. So when you decompose it anaerobically, then you convert the organic material into biogas. That biogas contains, what he was mentioning, the methane, the carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfide. So you have removed the dissolved hydrogen sulfide from the feces. So in that case, whatever is coming out now is devoid of it, or it is in a limited composition or quantity. So when you now pass it to further treatment, that is when you are able to remove it completely.
Okay. I want us to talk about the regulation, the regulatory space within which all of these innovations are happening. What is it that the regulatory, I think you have an association with EPA. You could tell us a bit about what government regulation on this space is. Fecal matter, is treatment, how to get the effluent into our systems, all of that.
Well, currently, I don't know much about any written regulations concerning them, apart from the septic tank that's last mentioned.
Okay.
We, as an association, the Biogas Association of Ghana, have been advocating for the introduction of biogas plant or biodigesters. And fortunately for us, it has caught the attention of the CTVET, who has introduced the design and construction of biogas plants, biodigesters into a curriculum. We were part of the production process.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if I'm okay.
No, let him land and
Yes.
then yes.
Yeah. So I just lost my thought.
No, so
Sorry
so
about
I want to find out the kinds of
regulars.
professionals we should be inviting into our homes to design these systems.
So
where do we start from?
I wanted to start from the regulation, then I'll talk
Okay,
about professional.
all right.
So actually there is the EPA and Ghana Standards Authority. There's GS Standards 1212-2019. That talks about the requirements for effluent discharge.
Okay.
That's basically the baseline. So that irrespective of whatever technology, whatever systems you are installing, it should meet, whatever comes out should meet these guidelines.
What is it exactly that they'll be looking out for? So these effluents, they'll come in and test?
Yes, so I think Joshua alluded to it earlier. So
Yes.
basically, you take a sample, take it to a recognized lab. They'll test for disease-causing organisms. They'll test for nutrient loads. They'll test for organic loads. They test for a number of parameters, over 15 parameters. So EPA requires that, especially when you're discharging into the environment.
Okay.
So if you're doing a septic tank or you're discharging into a soak pit, technically you're not discharging into the environment.
But it's a communal space.
It's a communal space, I understand. So there are different concepts. So just to jump a bit, there's a concept of the sanitation ladder. Because we know that we all have different financial abilities, right? So that someone may not be able to afford an anaerobic system, a biogas system. So you should have space for the person to have a comparable technology that doesn't pollute the environment. It may not it may not check off all the boxes, but at least it protects the person, it protects the immediate environment. I mean, along the line, we can talk about pollution of groundwater and all those things. But basically, if you are going to discharge into the environment where everybody will come into contact with the waste, then you should meet the minimum EPA guideline or Ghana Standard guideline.
So if we are still on the issue of regulation, monitoring the space and stuff. Do we have these institutions going to the various households or the various collection points to check?
I think to be fair to them, it will be difficult to monitor the households. Right?
So what are they monitoring? Industrial sites?
They typically focus on industrial and commercial. If there's no reports from your neighbors, I mean, typically you can go scot-free. But when your neighbors start agitating, that's where the EPA is a bigger institution at the top. They have regional offices, but they don't have district offices or municipal. So it's the responsibility of the environmental health officers at the various districts to go
flag
around
these things.
Yes, and to monitor. So they are supposed to monitor the construction. So typically when you present a building plan, you are required to have a sewage or waste treatment system as part of it, so that they're supposed to come and check all those things, and as part of their routine monitoring, check if you are compliant and all those things. Yeah.
I want to talk about the various systems and their effect on water sources.
Yeah.
After you've gone through all of these, and I know that Joshua Bright, you have a different opinion of what Frank's system stands for, and a bit of, there's some divergent views on the different systems and their benefits. I want to find out, before you go into somebody's home or facility, what are you looking out for? And then we will end on the issue of what the benefits are or the effects are on water sources in Ghana. I think that I will let you
start.
Yes,
Okay.
Joshua Bright.
Yes, so as Selassie was initially stated, I'll go to a client and ask her how many number of people will be using the facility. What is your main purpose, the primary purpose for asking for the facility? But usually what we meet is that someone just calls you, I want a biofuel or I want a biogas plant. It shouldn't be the client's decision to decide whether a biofuel or a biogas should be constructed for him.
But why, it's whose decision? They'll be paying for it.
Yes, it should be the consultant, the person you are engaging, who will advise you. Because the purposes of choosing whatever you want, you have to tell the consultant. So it can be for wastewater treatment purely or only, or for the purposes of energy and wastewater treatment. So after we have done this, I will do the designs, and then I will tell you how much it will cost you to construct.
Okay.
That's what I do.
Gentlemen, I want us to move to, after we've gone through all these processes, what are some of the byproducts we can get from liquid waste? I think you can start and then you can continue.
Okay, so liquid waste in its raw state contains nutrients.
Contains nutrients.
And this nutrient can be put to use for growth. It can be treated for handling, then it can be used for irrigation in your household.
The water from it can be used for irrigation.
For irrigation.
Okay.
It contains lots of
Can we use the water to wash?
Depends on the level of treatment.
Yes.
Depends on the level of treatment, then we can use the water to wash.
Exactly.
I want you to tell us the benefits of sludge. Describe biochar.
I should describe biochar.
Yes, I mean,
so
we would show it on the screen, but I want you to tell us sludge. The first time I saw sludge to be used or biochar to be used for cooking, I was excited. But that's because I'm in this space.
Okay.
We need a certain mindset. That's the next area to go because we are in the green economy, And so we must, I want you to describe to us, is it harmful?
Okay, so basically, the concept of biochar is the same as making charcoal.
Charcoal.
Right.
Good.
So basically,
But using feces.
yes, exactly. So after you have dewatered the sludge, remove the water from the sludge, you have dried fecal sludge.
The third level, you mean?
Yes,
Okay.
you have dried fecal sludge. Typically, it can go through a process to decontaminate it, to kill the pathogens and all that. The dried fecal sludge can go into composting.
Okay.
Or you can divert it to biochar.
Biochar.
So biochar is basically taking the fecal sludge, dewatering it further, and then going through the charcoal making process, typically in the absence of oxygen. So you convert the fecal sludge into charcoal. That's basically what the biochar is.
So we can actually use the biochar to cook in our homes and won't have any harm.
It's perfectly safe.
No smell.
No smell.
Okay.
Especially if it goes through the right treatment process, there's absolutely no problem with biochar. Yes, from fecal sludge.
What other, apart from the water and then now biochar, what else can we get?
I want to add to that.
Yes,
So as he was explaining, you would have stabilized the sludge by anaerobic digestion or any other form of digestion, and then when it comes out, instead of using wood to produce the charcoal, you are now using the solidified sludge for the charcoal. So you are even saving the environment with that.
We are romanticizing the
brown
brown gold
gold
some more. Because then it means that a time is coming as we are ingesting and we are defecating, we can use that to cook and we don't need to cut down trees anymore.
Exactly.
Very environmentally friendly.
That's the whole idea of the circular economy and all those things, yes.
Well,
So to just add the benefits.
Yes.
So when you have the feces, let's say I've eaten and passed it out. So I can have the biogas from it, I can have the nutrients from it, I can now have biochar from it. So these feces can give us all these three benefits. That's why we are calling it a brown gold. It's source of funds.
Should there be a time where producers of brown gold should be expecting some payment for producing the brown gold?
I think they'll get subsidies.
They'll get
Exactly. It should be subsidies.
Yes, there will be subsidies for producing a certain quality of feces. Perhaps. Well, anything is possible in this space. Let's talk about cost. Cost of your services.
Yeah, so to add to the benefits, an
Yes,
extension of it also could be fertilizer.
Fertilizer.
For agriculture sector.
Wonderful.
So with cost, with the biofuel system, it's relatively cheaper.
How cheap?
Compared to building a septic tank and other facilities. We are looking at
an average system would cost a household how much? Yes.
Around 2,500 to 3,000 Ghana cedis.
About between 2,500 to 10,000 to 3,000.
For a standard household.
For
the system
household
itself.
Okay.
But what happens is we do a site visit to ascertain is there extra work that needs to be done before the system is being installed, and those one come at an extra cost. But the system itself which is a prefabricated system, comes between this price.
Okay.
So,
What would you also say
biofuel
about
is
costing?
financially cheaper, but environmentally expensive. Because I asked a question earlier that after we have gone through the separation process, what happens to the liquid? You cannot treat fecal matter by sieving it.
No.
Okay, so
So sieving the liquid doesn't mean you've treated it anyway. So as I said, until it is passed through an anaerobic digestion process, removal of the smell becomes a problem. So you said you will talk about the challenges. You've not said that yet anyway. So I will just talk about the cost. Yes. So relatively, the biogas system is expensive when compared to the biofuel, but it is because of the volumes that will be constructed.
Is there a competitive pricing mechanism for other systems?
Yes, so I wanted to, at least I'm in the middle of the two.
Yes.
So there is a
That's why I came to you.
Yes, there's a wide range of technologies available for homes and different practitioners, right, or different beneficiaries. There's a wide range, right? So number one, I mentioned what you intend to your end use. If your objective is really just handle this excreta business, I don't want it in my, then you can go for something within your price range. There are a lot of technologies within your price range. I think the most affordable is the biofuel system now. Then you have the septic tank, you have the SBR, and then you can add on the biogas.
And all of these, every household or every facility where people work or stay must have.
You should have, yes. I mean, it's in our regulatory guidelines, so you should have these systems. So there are a lot of technologies. For me, what is important is making available appropriate technologies for different classes of people.
Okay, the affordability.
Yes, so that no one is left behind. And for that to happen, then unfortunately, we need to standardize some of these things so that anybody can pick it up. Any trained artisan can pick it up. Like the way we've literally standardized septic tanks.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Any properly trained.
But septic tanks are just one
It has
form
challenges.
of the...
It's true. I agree. But I mentioned the sanitation ladder initially because if my annual income is 5,000 cedis, I mean, now sanitation is a human right, right?
Yes, it is.
I should have a toilet. I should have a place to appropriately dispose it of. I can't afford a biogas system.
Why not?
Unless you can prove that someone who earns 5,000 a year...
You can do it. Because, see, anybody who can build a house should be able to provide
No,
a
I didn't
treatment
say build a
system.
house.
Yes.
I didn't say build a house.
So you see, we haven't even talked about brown gold in slum areas.
Exactly.
Yes.
So,
That's why I wanted to talk about the affordability issue or the costing.
Yes.
Because with all these amazing things we are talking about, what does it mean for those who live in the slums? They still have to produce.
yes, so that's where the sanitation... So when you study the sanitation ladder, it doesn't state that everybody should have this type of system.
Okay.
It's progressive. You have what is suitable for your cost bracket, for your environment and all that. I mean, there are some countries I've visited where now they call the bucket latrines.
Yes.
Now it's containerized sanitation.
That's the fancy name for
Yeah,
it.
because unfortunately, I mean, if it's a slum, you can't... Normally, slums are in bad areas, waterlogged areas and all that. You can't dig to build a septic tank. You can't build containment
But even
systems.
if you are digging, you'll be legitimizing their existence.
Exactly. So you have to provide appropriate systems so that at least they also have basic sanitation. So what do you do?
Yeah.
Right? So you have to look at it in that stage. So I don't think that we should
Make
use
it a
one
flat,
brush
yes.
to paint everybody.
No, so it's not like using one brush to paint everybody.
What's your concern is that we should do it and do it well.
Yes.
Okay.
So it can even be a biofuel, whatever. I don't have a problem with the name. But look, you cannot remove smell with biofuel.
Okay.
You can only remove smell with anaerobic digestion. It's very
I
important.
disagree.
Hold on a
You can
second.
introduce air.
Yes.
But the introduction of air is expensive.
Well,
Okay.
it's
So
getting
it's
more
a-
affordable.
How?
Yes.
Can you come in with your
Okay,
point
so
about the
with the-
affordability
with the-
thing? Yes.
Biofuel toilets, it's not been experimented. There have been research, there have been
Tried and tested.
tests on it.
Do you have any results on it? Results on the test of effluent? Because you see, you do the separation of the solids. Solids can be, yes, digested by the vermicology or all those, fine, you can do it. But then the liquid that is going, after sieving it, passing feces through a sieve, doesn't mean you treated
It
it.
doesn't mean it's
Yes,
treated.
I-
Is that
I-
what the, hold on a sec, please.
So what I see us doing here is that we are saying that, okay, we don't want armed robbers, we want thieves.
Okay.
No, not
Yeah,
necessarily.
no. Let me explain to you. Okay, let me explain to you. So what is happening is this. When you go to, they have their own challenges. You mentioned we couldn't discuss it, but I'll mention it.
Yeah.
One of the challenges they have is whenever they are in the waterlogged area, it's not able to work. Why? Because you need high
Hold on a
percolation
sec, I'll
rate
give you
soil.
opportunity.
You need a high percolation rate soil for it to work.
What does that mean?
Yes, so a soil that allows water.
What types of soil are we talking about?
A
here?
soil that allows water to pass it through freely. Okay, so when that
But Bright,
happens,
it's the same problem with
Please
septic
hold on.
tanks.
Please hold on a second.
yes, so
Let him
septic tank,
land.
that's what I said, septic tank itself also have problems.
That's a problem. So he's just talking about the different
Okay.
problems. But
let
let me
me-
explain in just a second what the benefits are. He's trying to bring out some of the negatives. What are some of the benefits of the biofilm
The biofuel
system?
digester is cheap to install. It's breaks
But
down
his
solid-
focus is not on the.
Financially.
It
Please
breaks
hold on.
down-
Financially
His
cheaper.
it breaks down
point
solid
is not the cost.
more rapidly.
Okay.
And then in his problem, when they have to high water table areas,
Yeah.
in that instances, you will not allow the water to permeate into the earth, soil.
What do you do then? You harvest?
You harvest the water. You treat to use it for irrigation.
How do you treat?
We
That's
use
what I
sound
asked.
filtrations. Sound filters are
So you are
one of the
filtering.
best.
No, it's
Hold
it's
on,
a
hold on.
proven
Please let
technology.
him show. Please,
It's a
Engineer
proven
Selassie,
technology.
also
No,
tell
so,
us your.
I mean, I can go on and on. I mean, sand filtration is a proven technology.
I know, because
Yes,
I design
ex-
filters as well.
Exactly.
I know.
Why do you do
Let-
that?
So
let
you
him-
can't
let him
discount
land.
what he's saying.
Okay.
Right. Basically, I mean, if you go into an area where there's high water table and all those things, you have to modify your design.
approach. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Okay.
that's what I think they do.
Okay.
I mean, if you have a septic tank also in a high water table area, your soakaway will not work.
It will
All
work,
right.
yes.
All right.
Yes,
So the
exactly.
type of soil within which the system is set up is critical to the discussion.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'm going to give everybody a minute to conclude the discussions. Engineer Selassie, I think we'll end. You give us your closing statement.
Well, I think we are in an era where fecal sludge, I mean, I've told some other colleagues of mine that there seems to be a lot of attention on solid waste.
Yeah.
But we are bidding our time. In the next few years, the attention will shift to fecal sludge because population is increasing. There's an urban sprawl. How are we going to manage all these things? We are running out of land to build these big ponds for treating fecal sludge and all those things. We have to start thinking of innovative technologies that are cost-effective,
Yeah.
Occupy smaller space, and are environmentally friendly. And that's what I think the future is. And yes, some of us are already there.
Thank
And
you
we're
very
waiting
much.
for you.
Frank, please give us your closing statements.
Yeah, so I think these forums are very important for some of these discussions so that the public will be aware of what is going on so they can make an informed choice when putting up their structures. In our part of the world, we end up putting the structures, forgetting about what our excreta will go, then become a challenge for us. With the biofuel technology, it's been proven and tested. I mean, we have test results that I can share with Joshua, and then
I'll be glad to have
we'll
them.
move on. So when in high water table areas, we don't recommend only biofuel digester alone.
Exactly.
We recommend
Treatment system.
header treatment system, which we also provide on that. So
Thank
there's
you.
a whole lot.
Okay, we'll leave the last comment to you.
Yes, so I agree with the two speakers. We really have to take our wastewater management seriously, else we'll continue creating a lot of odona in our communities, and it's a shame to us. So I pray that programs like this continue, and then government agencies should also catch up with us, and that we'll be able to solve the problem completely.
Thank you very much for watching. Today we've talked about the brown gold, fecal matter, all the other synonyms for human excreta and the treatment systems that we've needed in our system. We've had Joshua Bright Amenorfe, with us, we have Engineer Selassie, and then we have Mr. Frank Ekwam. And I want to say a big thank you to you all for being in the studio to educate us on fecal matter and the systems that have to be used in containing them. Thank you very much for watching Trash Talk. Stay with us. Come next week. We'll present another one.